Morning and welcome. Thank you all for being here. The Veterans and Military Affairs Finance and Policy Committee will come to order. It is Thursday, February 11th at 8:32 a.m. I appreciate all of you being here. Today's agenda looks like we have 3 bills and a presentation up by the Department of Veterans Affairs on some staffing in the veterans homes. Before we get started today, I would like you to all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you could, Dave, close the flag and we will get started. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
Well, thank you. The first bill we have up today, Senate File 607. I am looking, there he is right there, Senator Goggin, Senate File 607. Are you ready?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I am. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Please proceed with your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I am really happy to be here at your committee today. Thank you so much for having me here and hearing my bill, Helmets to Hard Hats. First off, I want to thank my co-authors, Senators Duckworth, Lang, Howe, and Newton. And I can tell you there were many others that wanted to sign on to the bill as well. This is one of the programs that has really, or that we've done in this state that has been such a great service to our military veterans to help them assimilate back into civilian life, getting into the skilled trades. We started this in 2017, and it's really took off. Last year we had a lull, of course, because of the COVID. We weren't able to get the face-to-face meetings with our veterans to help get them, those interested into the program. So we did have a little bit of a drop, but all in all, this has been an extremely successful program, and it's really helped our veterans. And what it does is it just helps them transition from the military into the skilled trades. And right now, the career in the skilled trades is a great opportunity for long-lasting personal fulfillment in applying, the skills that you have and helping make our society a better society. So, and what it's asking for is $225,000 in fiscal years 2022 and 2023. And then we also are looking to get this into the base budget, so it's an ongoing appropriation going forward. Because of the runtime we've had with this program, it is successful, and it's something that we should continue forward with to help our veterans out. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back to you and to our other presenters, Mr. Thaden and Mr. Roast.
Thank you, Senator Goggin. Let's see, which one would like to go first? I think you have Mr. Thaden is listed first. Is that correct? Mr.
Yes.
Thaden, if you could identify yourself for the record and proceed with testimony, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Gary Thaden. I'm the Government Affairs Director for the Mechanical and Electrical Contractors Associations. I'm also the board chair for the Construction Careers Foundation. And one of the foundation's 2 main objectives is helmets to hard hats. And it's not only that we think that this is a great program for bringing quality individuals into the construction trade, but from the start, we focused on mental health and suicide prevention for our veterans. And we think that those 2 objectives are extremely important. I'm going to turn it over to Justin and have him talk about the program. He's our director for the Helmets to Hard Hats program in Minnesota.
Mr. Roast.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you very much for having me here. My name is Justin Rost. I'm the director of the Minnesota Helmets to Hard Hats program. I'm also a Marine Corps veteran. I was active duty infantry, and I know what it's like to come home with a set of skills that don't necessarily transfer over to the civilian population. When I came home, I bounced around from job to job for years, went back to school, did all the things that I had been told you were supposed to do to find a career, and still had a hard time finding where I really belonged. It wasn't until I found my way into the sheet metal workers apprenticeship that I actually found a home, found where I liked to be, where I belonged. And along with that, my wife and children got to come for the ride. I came home with a wife and a young daughter, and had another daughter a few years after getting home. And the financial instability through those years was one of the biggest things that weighed on my mind, that could, that's proven to weigh on veterans' minds also. By finding the apprenticeship and by finding a job I was happy with, getting skilled training and being able to move forward into a financially stable career really helped improve my frame of mind, really helped improve my way of life. And that's really what the Helmets to Hard Hats program is here to do. We want to help transition veterans of any era, of any age, of any branch of service. If you wore a uniform, you are welcome into this program. What we try and do is help them find their way on a career path into an improved apprenticeship program so that they can find that same kind of financial stability and career that I found. In doing so, we know that that can also help combat depression, PTSD, TBI, and suicide, which is plaguing the veteran community. So part of what we do also is try and partner with other groups and come up with our own ways to help combat mental health issues such as suicide among the veteran community. In doing so, we partnered with the Twin City Suicide Prevention Coalition, which was an effort that was put together by Jesse Howe of the VA here in Minneapolis. In joining into doing that, we were able to restructure the approach that the VA takes as being from reactive to proactive. And the measures that we were able to come up with and the way we were able to revamp the system was so well looked upon by the VA that Jesse has now been promoted to a national level to bring this program throughout the entire United States also. So we made major strides in how the VA changes their perspective on how they deal with veteran suicide through outreach. And we were also able to, in the Helmets to Hard Hats program alone, help 3 individuals who were in apprenticeships already that were displaying signs and symptoms of depression and suicide get the help they needed while in their apprenticeship to move forward. To my knowledge, all of those individuals are doing much better. For the meat and potatoes of the program, we've helped 775 veterans learn more about apprenticeship in the last 3 years. To put that in perspective, in the 10 years prior to us being here, that's the same number at the national program was able to help in Minnesota. So in 3 years, we've done what they were able to do in 10 years here in the program. And that proves that boots on the ground and skin in the game does make a large difference in reaching our veterans and getting them this information. We know that over 120 of our veterans have been, they've gotten into apprenticeships. I'm sure that number is much higher. However, some veterans become much more difficult to reach once they have landed in a position and are working and are moving on with their lives. I would like to close with a statement that was sent to me by one of the veterans that we've helped, if that's okay with everyone. It says, "Hey, Justin, just wanted to inform you, if you didn't know already, as of January 2020, I was able to get into the elevator union. This has been the best thing that has ever happened to me. I really enjoy this trade, and I just want to thank Helmets to Hard Hats for helping me get into this union. I've come so far since then. I purchased a new house, a brand new truck, and I'm living my life fully. Coming from homelessness, a life of drug use and crime, to now being sober and having my own house. I just wanted to thank you, especially for putting in the work and getting me into this trade. Anything I could do to give back or give you a shout out, I definitely will do. Thanks again, Neil." When I met this veteran, he was living at the VA's housing, and we were able to get him into the trade of his choice, and we were able to get him moving forward so that he could have that stable financial future and have his feet under him so he can move forward with his future and leave that behind. And I thank you for hearing us out today.
Thank you, Mr. Rost. Sorry, I think I got it right the second time there. Members, any questions, either to Senator Goggin or the testifiers? Senator Uyghur looks like he's got his hand up. Go ahead, sir. Senator Uyghur, you're muted.
Okay, I'll get this right one of these days. Thank you so much, testifiers. I couldn't be a stronger advocate for this bill. And it's all about providing hope. And Mr. Roseman, you just mentioned about the testimony about the veteran that is in the elevator union. What a great success story. What a great one for you. And one person very close to me in life got into the elevator union just in the past year. And this is a path for a six-figure income. And if you've got the grit, you got the aptitude and the attitude, there is a path. And this goes in all of the trade areas. In the White Bear Lake School District, for example, the chair of that board, Don Mullen, who's also the president for the building construction trades in the greater St. Paul area. It's all about providing opportunities in the trades as well. At the 916 Career Tech, we had a program and talking about this program as well, about the opportunities. So thank you so much. And I wish we could just get this to the governor's desk as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Uyghur. It looks like Senator Anderson has his hand up as well. Go ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Goggin, how many grants are available once this legislation gets through to veterans in the next 2 years?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to have Justin Ross answer that question. I think he's got the details on all that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I would need you to repeat the question, please.
How many grants will be available in the next 2 years based on the money that's being provided here in this legislation?
I'm going to defer to Gary Thaden, who may have that answer. I do not have that answer. I apologize.
Pass it around. It'll stop here, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, this is a $200,000 per year appropriation directly to the Construction Careers Foundation. And we hire Justin as an employee and he does the work.
But how many grants are available?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Senator, this is not, we do not provide grants to people to be part of the apprenticeship committee. The money goes to pay for Justin and his travel around the state and printing and distribution of information. We do not give any money to any veterans.
So the grants, Mr. Chair, so the grants go to the initiative, the Helmets to Hard Hats. It's an organization that receives the money and then they use it for paying Mr. Rouse's salary.
Mr. Chair, Senator, yes, that's correct.
And Mr. Chair, if I could.
Go ahead, Senator Goggin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll give you some statistics, Senator Anderson and the rest of the senators on the committee. In 2016-17, we had 70 veterans enrolled in the state of Minnesota in the program, in apprentice programs through the National Helmets to Hard Hats. 2017-18, we had 300. 2018 and 2019, we had 257. And then 2019 through 2020, we had 192 veterans participating in apprentice programs through the National Helmets to Hard Hats or through the Helmets to Hard Hats program in the state. So
that sounds fantastic. That's great.
Yeah, very good numbers. Very proud of Justin and his work and for getting the word out there to our veterans and letting them know there are other options and they can take their skills that they learned in their military assignments and translate those to civilian life.
Well, Mr. Chair.
Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Goggin, it says in subdivision 2 of this legislation that it establishes the amount of a tax credit. Do you know what that amount is?
Subdivision 2? I do not have that number handy, Senator.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at a different, the next bill coming up. Sorry, I'm ahead of myself here. Appreciate that.
You caught me off guard on that one.
Too much paperwork to try and figure out. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Senator Anderson, if you're finished, Senator Herr is up next.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I also want to thank Justin for testifying. And I just want to voice a word of encouragement. Veterans that serve are now more diverse. And I have conversation with our newly elected Senator Duckworth. He actually have been in my area at one of the I lost the term, one armory. Yeah, one armory in my district. And he said, yes, I worked with diversity before, so your area is quite diverse. So I just want just to take note of, I know there's a percentage out there for to reach that diversity, but I just, want to Justin to make note of that and make sure that it's inclusive. And it did specify that on the bills too, but I just thought I'd voice that into consideration. So thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Senator Herr. Senator Newton looks like he's got his hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I simply want to say this has been an outstanding program since it first started several years ago. And I want to encourage everyone to support it. It's one of the better things that we've done on the Veterans Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Newton. Members, any other questions? Perfect. I guess the question I would ask to the group, I'd guess, either the testifiers or Senator Goggin, is this the amount that would be put into the budget? Is this growing the program, or is this sustaining the program? As far as scale goes, what kind of are we talking about?
Mr. Chair, this is to sustain the program. We initially started out in 2017 and 18, and then 19 and 20 with $200,000 a year, and with the cost of cost of living, or the raising of the cost of doing business, the $225,000 a year will be enough to cover the program entirely. We'll take a little bit of work off of the group to have to go out and do additional fundraising to cover basically the $25,000 more that we're asking. Will relieve some of the stress that they've had to take on to be able to fund the program completely. And so we just thought, we've got runtime on the program, it's working, and it's not that big of an increase in ask. And that other $25,000 a year, the veterans can use, the veterans groups can use that in other endeavors.
Thank you, Senator Goggin. I get in the back of my mind, I'm doing some rough, not quite high school math, I suppose, and thinking about what it's costing per veteran. And I think it's probably a good deal, somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500 in the back of my head, to get these veterans into a career where they can support themselves. And, indirectly, I would think this is it was slightly mentioned by Mr. Ross in the beginning, but I think it is an important part of a couple of initiatives of both departments that at the beginning of the year we've talked about, both the veterans suicide and veterans homelessness, where I think this is part of maybe a trinity of things that this committee has been a part of and will continue to be a part of into the future. So I guess is any additional, Mr. Ross, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, senators of the committee. I do want to point out that we do work with other veteran programs in the state also, including MACV, to help combat homelessness. We try and help the Minnesota Assistance Council for Veterans place veterans that they're dealing with that are they're homeless or near homelessness. We do try and help them out by giving them information to try and get into one of these stable careers that I mentioned. We do work with the VA's vocational rehab, and that's both Minneapolis and the St. Paul VA. We are also working with the family assistance centers throughout the state. So we do have outreach into other programs, also working with the career force centers for DEED. So We do have outreach throughout the state, and we are working with the county veteran service officers. They have all heard about the Helmets to Hard Hats program through their state conferences, trying to get the word out there to any other state employee who's trying to help veterans also, that we can help them.
Thank you, Mr. Rost. Members, anything else? Senator Anderson with your hand up again, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to ask Mr. Ross, besides himself being the kind of the outreach coordinator and the director, how many others do you have in your office or that assist you? You have an assistant or a couple other people, or?
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I work alone as representative of Helmets to Hard Hats here in the state. I am directly linked to, but not funded by in any way, the National Helmets to Hard Hats program. I do work in conjunction with them. I'm able to utilize their website and their resources online and their social media, as well as the social media of the Construction Careers Foundation, which we participate in. Other than the executive director of the Construction Careers Foundation, Pat Wagner, I work alone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. As long as I have you unmuted, Senator Anderson, would you like to move Senate File 607?
I would. Mr. Chair, I'd like to move Senate File 607 and be recommended to pass and be sent to the Jobs and Economic Development Committee.
Members, Senator Anderson moves that Senate File 607 be recommended to pass and we refer to the Jobs and Economic Development, Finance, and Policy Committee. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passes and the Senate File 607 is recommended to pass and referred. Senator Goggin, thank you for your presentation. Presenters as well. You're on your way to the next committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next item on the agenda we have today is Senate File 683. Senator Howe, I've seen him up in the corner. Before we get started, it looks like on the notes you do have an A1 authors amendment. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I do have an author's amendment, and if you want me to move that, I'll move the A1 amendment.
Senator Howe moves the A1 amendment. Why don't you explain it prior to us passing it, and then we'll go to the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. What the A1 amendment does is it that basically deletes the retirement boards of the branches of the armed forces, because the retirement boards really look at medical retirements. They don't establish disability. So we're basically taking that out of the mix. It's not a big item, but it's an item that clarifies we're working off of the disability by the Veterans Administration, and just clarifies that takes out the retirement boards, because they really don't have a dog in the fight when it comes to disability. So that's the amendment.
Thank you, Senator Howe. Members, in front of you, we have the A1 amendment to Senate File 683. Again, all those in favor signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Senator Howe, Senate File 683 as amended, please proceed with the bill, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. 683 is basically what it does. It provides the opportunity for employers, people that employed unemployed veterans and unemployed disabled veterans. It gives them a tax credit. So it basically incentivizes the employers to hire veterans and disabled veterans who are struggling finding employment. And that's the short end of the deal. And if you have further questions, but I'd actually like to go to my testifier, Mr. Trent Dilks from the Disabled American Veterans.
Thank you, Senator Howe. And Mr. Dilks, if you could identify yourself for the record and proceed, since we have never met you or ever heard from you before. Go ahead. But first you have to unmute.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. At least I didn't make myself a cat. I'm Trent Dilks, the Legislative Director for the Disabled American Veterans Department of Minnesota. And as always, it's a pleasure to be in front of your committee today. The DAV has a nationwide employment program as we try to help veterans and disabled veterans find employment. And so I'd like to speak to that a little bit, a view of that. During our national study, we found that 50% of our injured and wounded veterans fear hiring discrimination while they're seeking employment. So instead of employers seeing resiliency and strong commitment, they fear that they're going to see broken and damaged veterans. So there's a negative stigma still in the mind of the disabled veterans. If you look at a younger population of veterans, the post 9/11 veterans, we're looking at an estimated 25% of our service members since post 9/11 coming out of service with a disability. Connect that to unemployment, and you see post 9/11 veterans at a higher rate of unemployment than our civilian counterparts. As a kind of special broken out population, you see a higher veteran unemployment than other populations that are broken out and studied. And post 9/11 veterans, younger ones, much higher than that. To put it in perspective, those who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, we're seeing over 13% unemployment, while those who served in the Gulf War, we're seeing 7.1%. Overall, we know a tax credit won't be a single solution, but as we try to present to employers all of the benefits of hiring veterans and disabled veterans and the leadership, the resiliency, the ability to operate under stressful environments that they bring to the table and bring to their employers, being able to open those doors with the tax credit, with something that maybe they do understand, to start to have the broader conversation on why it's important and beneficial to bring veterans in, I think would be extremely beneficial. We look at other states that have done it. We're kind of surrounded by them here in the Midwest, while we don't. So it's something that I hope the committee will strongly consider. We've been, I think I testified on this 3-4 years ago. It's been something that's been out there and it hasn't quite gotten the momentum it needs. But anything we can do to start to close that gap for our service members, for our disabled service members in the unemployment. And that's not even touching on what the pandemic is going to have done to them. So talk about a time to try to stimulate veteran hiring and disabled veteran hiring. And I think we're right now is the right time to do that. So the Disabled American Veterans fully support this. We thank Senator Howe for bringing it forward. I think it's a step in the right direction and overall can help us start to address that unemployment problem. And I apologize for coming to you from my second office here, but I was just on the radio, KNSI in St. Cloud, telling them about all the great work the Senate Military and Veterans Affairs Committee is doing over there in St. Paul. So,
Thank you, Mr. Dilks. Members, any questions? Senator Anderson, go ahead.
Here comes my question about the amount of the tax credit. And I wonder if Senator Howe or Mr. Dilks can respond with the, it says in the summary that there's a certain amount that's being decided. Do you know the amount that is, or maybe that's been something that's been holding this bill up?
Mr. Chair?
Senator Howe, go ahead.
Well, it depends on who you're hiring. If you're hiring an unemployed disabled veteran, the credit is 10% of the wages that's paid to the employee, but not more than $3,000. If you're hiring a unemployed veteran, qualified veteran, that is the same thing. It's 10% of the wages paid, but not more than $1,500. And you cannot, an employer can't double dip. He can't have an unemployed disabled veteran and get $4,500 tax credit. He either gets the $3,000 or the $1,500, but he can't take both. But it's limited to 10% of the wages, or $1,500 or $3,000, depending on which veteran you've hired. And the veteran must have been collecting unemployment prior to the prior to the hiring. So it does make it so the person has to be unemployed, and he has to be either if he's a disabled and qualified disabled veteran, then it just doubles the amount.
Thank you. Mr. Chair,
Senator Anderson.
Senator Howe, so the, excuse me, the definition of the veteran is what?
Mr. Chair, and Senator Anderson, the definition is a veteran that has served at least 181 days on active duty.
Thank you.
Members, any additional questions? Well, Senator Howe, I think this is a bill we've kind of, well, we've seen a few times over the last few years. I guess I have a couple questions. Is it, well, go ahead, Senator Newton. Looks like you jumped in.
Yeah, I just want to clarify something, Mr. Chair. Is that's the only definition of the veteran? Doesn't it also include veterans who have been injured while in service?
True. Mr.
Okay.
Chair, yes. Senator Newton, you're absolutely correct. It is for those veterans that were disabled during service. So that's the other definition. But I was just clarifying what the definition of veteran. He didn't ask disabled veteran, but you're absolutely right, Senator Newton. The disabled veteran is also included in that. The disabled veteran who has a compensatable service-connected disability as determined by the Veterans Administration. So
sometimes we have to have our sergeants major take care of our lieutenant colonels.
Daily, yeah. Senator Howe, I guess I do have a couple of questions. Can a service member receive this multiple times, or is it per employer? So if a service member was to get a job at one contractor of one sort or another, could that service member perpetually get this tax credit if they were to jump from job to job?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and you know that's a good question. I don't know if we address the veteran, because the veteran doesn't get this tax credit, the employer does. They couldn't turn around and hire the same employee, but I guess if the employee changed, if he went unemployed and went to a different employer, he could collect. I suppose that next employer could collect on it again.
Perfect. And then one more, and then I'll be quiet. Other states, is this a pioneer program, or is it something where other states have done this in the past? Is it, and that might be a question for Mr. Dilks as well, but.
Well, I think he would be the man to, Mr. Chair, to answer that question. But I think, as he alluded to, I think the states around us all have this program.
Mr. Dilks?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Yes, so I'd be happy to send over kind of a summary of where I find these, but there are a lot of programs similar to this. This one might be a little bit different in how it's calculated, still effective, obviously, and I like the way it's calculated, actually. But yes, there are several other states during my research that do this, and I'll be happy to supply the list of those over to you.
Perfect, thank you. Senator Anderson?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Dilks mentioned that we've been at this, or bringing this bill forward year after year for several years now. And I'm just wondering, in your experience, Mr. Dilks, as we've gone from committee to committee, what's been the major hurdle in getting this to the governor's desk?
Mr. Chair, Senator Anderson, thank you. And I know that at times there, with a fiscal note attached to it, there's maybe some questions about that. But as with any fiscal note, there's room to look at how that's calculated as far as the cost. And if we have an unemployed veteran, is that is that offsetting other costs that we should be looking at? So when it comes to getting our veterans fully employed, much like the previous program, I think it's a tool well worth the cost. Like I say, it doesn't solve all of the problems, but it opens additional doors so we can continue to educate employers and continue to find new avenues. So it doesn't seem to build the steam that it needs to push through, and often gets lost. So I'm glad to see Senator Howe championing it again for us, and hopefully we can continue to push it forward.
So, Mr. Chair,
Senator Anderson.
Mr. Dilks, what you're saying is that the fiscal note, when it gets to the next committee or the finance committee or in the conference committee, kind of hamstrings the people beyond us as far as in committee, as far as making out the budget. And so it's kind of had put some financial restraints on the way we come to finalize our budget for the biennium. I guess that's what we have to look at as we go through in the next few months here. So thank you, Mr. Dilks.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Howe, please.
Mr. Senator Anderson, I guess to that point, I think once we receive that fiscal note, I think we can play with a little bit of that 3,000 and 1,500, and maybe we can, if we have to, reduce that number just to get this thing started. And then once we see the added benefits, maybe we can go from there. So I'm hopeful that once we see the fiscal note, we can maybe, if we have to, make some adjustments. But I think this was a good starting point, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Howe. Looks like our resident expert on finances has got his hand up. Mr. Erickson, please.
Thanks, Senator Lang. I just wanted to offer one point of clarification, that this bill, I think, is heading to taxes, and so it's not a fiscal note that the bill will get. It'll receive a revenue estimate over there. It'll probably show a negative revenue because of the tax credit. But I just wanted to offer that clarification for the committee.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, Senator Howe, would you like to move your bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move Senate File 625 to pass as amended and move to taxes.
We'll try 683. So Senator Howe moves at file 683.
Oh, guess what? Look at that. Yeah, 683. My mistake.
Recommended to pass and amended as amended and referred to the tax committee. Again, members, all those in favor vote by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Senator Howe, you're on your way.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members.
The next item up on the agenda, Senator Anderson will take the helm from this point on. Senator, when you're ready, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see that you have got the next bill on the agenda, Senate File 458, and it's you have a few testifiers, a Mr. Allness and a Mr. Getman, and you have several co-authors on your bill also. So, Mr. Senator Lang, when you're ready to address 458, Senate File 458, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, members, before you this morning, I have Senate File 458. Senate File 458 is the official title authorizing the use of lawful gambling profits to building owners provided by veterans organization in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. And that's a long title and a quite short summary, which would allow our VFWs and our legions to use the money that they receive from gambling profits in order to comply with ADA requirements from both the state and the federal government. So that is a quick explanation. There's a lot more to it than that. And that's why we brought an expert in. So members, before we go on with that, I'd like to introduce you to Mr., in this case, Eric Allness. So Mr. Allness, could you educate us a little bit on 458?
Thank you very much, Senator Lang and Mr. Chair, members of the committee. First of all, for the record, Eric Allness, and I'm a 28-year veteran of your Army National Guard here in Minnesota, and I'm active in both Legions and VFWs at the local level. Also, as a point of interest, myself and Mark Ritchie serve as the civilian aides to the Secretary of the Army for Minnesota. And I mentioned that I'm not serving in that context today, but if any soldiers or veterans who are soldiers have issues with the Army, I encourage you to reach out to myself or Mark Ritchie so that we can help advocate on your behalf and resolve and help those soldiers, as some of the previous bills mentioned today, make it all the way home and to get good jobs as they're doing that. As Senator Lang referred to, the current state statute allows American Legions and VFWs to spend no more than 5% of their gross profits from the previous year in the repair, maintenance, and improvement of real property and capital assets by the organizations. These organizations are also prohibited from spending funds on the expansion of a building or bar-related expenditures. And what this bill does is it increases the allowable percentage to 50% for a 10-year period, and specifically allows funds to be spent on additions such as outdoor dining areas and bar infrastructure. So why is this a good idea? As you look around the state, you can see that many veteran service organizations' facilities are outdated, inefficient, and at the end of their usable life. Allowing American Legion and VFWs greater access to legal gambling funds for a finite period allows them to develop capitalization and modernization plans to ensure that they're viable community resources for decades to come. A couple examples include, you look at the outdated and inefficient HVAC systems and other equipment, which results in increased utility and operating costs borne by the post. Many posts do not offer full ADA access, and the cost of compliance often exceeds the current 5% standard, which limits veteran and other customers' access to the facility due to mobility issues. Third, because of the age of the facilities, many posts lack the safety features of newer buildings. Fourth, because of the COVID pandemic crisis has further stressed financially strapped posts, while at the same time heightened the need to expand serviced outdoor service areas. The current financial hardships may cause numerous veteran service organizations to permanently close their doors, thus limiting the valuable community services and donations provided by the post. And finally, many facilities have dated facades, interiors, and fixtures. A facelift to modernize the look is in dire need in many locations. So by passing this legislation, we see American Legion and VFW posts continuing to provide meaningful and substantial monetary support to their community for decades to come. Post bar, restaurant, and hall services are vital, affordable options to the community while providing livelihood for the organizations. This includes low or no-cost funeral receptions for veterans and very affordable rental options for special events for community members. More efficient and modern infrastructure saves utility and operational costs while being good members of the community. And it increases the value of the property and potentially the surrounding area in the community. And finally, modern and more attractive facilities attracts a newer generation of veterans to continue the charitable mission of the American Legion and VFW. And finally, great news from a legislative perspective is revenue neutral. A strong argument can also be made that the capital improvements to these facilities will produce more revenue in the future as vibrant American Legion and VFWs continue to contribute to the community and the state. This concludes my presentation. I'll turn it back to the next testifier to take questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Olness. Appreciate your testimony, and we'll hold questions until we hear from our next testifier. Mr. Matt Getman is with us. Mr. Getman, would you identify yourself and for the record and proceed with your testimony? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Anderson, thank you very much for the introduction. So Matt Getman, the current Executive Director of the Gambling Control Board, who's responsible for the oversight and ensuring the integrity of not only the conduct of the games, but where the proceeds from these paper games that are being played throughout the state are actually then spent. And with that, I sit outside actually our boardroom, and I apologize for not having the video, but our board is currently conducting the hearings on violations from statutes and rules, and would like to address the second and potentially third order effect of the proposed language. So the bill itself does not actually authorize anything different than what's already authorized today, except it takes the board's ability, the oversight itself, away from the board itself between 5% to 50%. So today, all the organizations, licensed organizations to include the veterans organizations, can spend any amount of money of their net proceeds from the gambling on the actual proposed language, the building repairs, the maintenance and improvement. I'll say it again. Today, there's over $2.5 million each year that are authorized by the board that exceed 5% of any particular organization's net profit. So if an organization has proceeds that are, let's say, $2 million from their gambling efforts through the state, under this proposed language, they'd be able to spend $1 million on building, repair, maintenance, and improvement without any oversight. So basically, they would be able to fly under the radar screen and literally have the money go to one of these purposes that are absolutely beneficial to not only, as was stated before, the organization, the veterans organizations, the community, but it is not the intended purpose. And so back in 2004, after about 20 years of the board controlling or trying to control the oversight of the abuses of organizations throughout the state, spending the lawful proceeds on various topics that were not authorized, back in 2004, they were allowed any organization, not just veterans, but any organization to spend up to 5% of their net proceeds on the building, maintenance, repair, and improvement without having to go through a formal process with the board. However, today, the majority of the dollars are coming from organizations that come to the board and say, we've got a repair, we've got some maintenance, we've got some improvement, all within the same structure, the same footprint. Because at the end of the day, especially for the veterans organizations, a lot of these organizations are using the veterans facility, the actual shelter itself, for other purposes. And so those purposes, whether it's the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whether or not it's for voting, whether or not it's for some other civic purpose, ultimately it's not for the bar itself. And so the bar application of these dollars is already a stretch with respect to how that's actually getting the money back to the charitable mission for which this lawful gambling expenditure has been carved out in the first place. So to state it a different way, the building repairs, maintenance, and improvements were carved out as one of the acceptable lawful purposes. Any amount of the net proceeds can be used for that, but if it exceeds 5%, it has to go through an application process for the board as a citizen member board to just provide that oversight to ensure that the money is going to, again, really the benefit of the charitable mission. So it's the shelter itself, it's the actual building itself, not to bar taps. And to compare it, what we're talking about is ultimately these organizations, whether or not it's the veterans organizations or other ones, are going to look at the lawful purposes that are allowed, and they're going to say, okay, now I can spend, instead of for education, for medicine, I'm going to be spending it on bar taps. I'm going to be spending it on something to improve the bar itself. And is that what the legislature wants to authorize? Is completely out of my purview. I have no dog in this fight, as Senator Howe referred to it as. What I'm suggesting, though, is the oversight is what is at issue with the language the way it's proposed today. Today, to go from 5 to 50% with no oversight, which is what the way the bill is drafted today, is opening up the can of worms that it took us 20 years to try to have some control over, to try to have some insurance that the money is actually going to one of the lawful purposes that are authorized by the legislature. So that's part of the issue with this proposed language. The other part is to carve out the veterans organizations only is going to be the slippery slope. Ultimately, the veterans organizations are roughly 25% of the total organizations in the state that conduct the charitable gambling. Immediately following the veterans organizations are going to be all the fraternal organizations who, similar to the veterans organizations, have trouble actually giving some of the lawful gambling proceeds to the infrastructure, to the parent organization, because they're not a 501c3. All of the other organizations that do charitable gambling can literally just transfer the funds from the gambling over to the parent organization funds and then use it for other purposes under that parent organization. The issue with the veterans organizations and the fraternal organizations is they can't do that because they're not recognized by IRS as the 501c3s. So while this potentially is helping out the veterans, slippery slope, but it'll immediately then have the fraternal organizations asking for the same equal treatment. And not too far behind are going to be all of the bars. All of the bars will be looking at it, that this, again, opportunity for spending the money to improve the platform from which the charitable gambling can be conducted, are going to say, we want the equal treatment too. And so many veterans organizations actually don't even have their own buildings that they're conducting the gambling. They're actually renting space. And so what we're saying is the veterans organizations would potentially be able to spend money on a private bar to improve that, to then ultimately say that's the platform from which they're doing the charitable gambling. And that's moving very far away from what the initial legislative intent was, to carve out this otherwise illegal activity, the gambling, to be for charitable purposes, to say that we're going to allow now a private bar to get an upgrade for their bar taps instead of providing scholarships or medicine or something else. So the concerns are back to just the oversight. The draft language starts down a slippery slope to allow licensed organizations, specifically initially the veterans organizations, that would prevent the board from doing the oversight that it needs to do on the proceeds from lawful gambling. Mr. Chair, Senator Anderson, stand ready for any questions. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Getman. Members, are there questions for the testifiers, either Mr. Alness or Mr. Getman? Anybody have any questions for Senator Howe?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I understand Mr. Getman's concerns, but I guess my concern is we need to do something to keep these doors open of our service organizations, because I tell you what, we're losing about 100 of them a day, or I should say 100 of them a year. And if we don't do something to allow them to continue to exist, that is going to rapidly increase. I mean, I know my American Legion that I belong to is selling their building and closing their doors. So these are huge assets to these small communities. And whether it's it's up to us to put the landscape out there on how to protect them. And when these other organizations come and say, me too, it's up to us to say, no, you're not the same. You're similar, but not the same. And so I guess maybe there's some language in there we can tighten something up, but I'm not too afraid of the rest of the organizations coming trying to say me too. I think that if you've got some language, Mr. Getman, that would help us tighten it up, I would support something like that. But I am supportive of this because I see the value of these service organizations, and we need to do something to help them continue.
Mr. Getman, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Howe. Would just like to say that absolutely, Senator Howe, support your position. And just to overemphasize, today, with the current statute, all of these organizations can apply through the board to have the money actually go towards these improvements, towards the repairs, towards the maintenance. There's no issue. What this bill, the concern, and actually the main concern that the board has, is the loss of oversight. And so today, the oversight is even extended. Senator Howe, I think you had mentioned about the sale of the building. That's even the worst case scenario, is that what we've seen is some of the organizations, some of the veterans organizations as well, who have used some of the money that's been approved by the board for an improvement only to turn around and then sell the building. And then the very proceeds that were meant to go for a charitable mission are then completely lost because they don't come back to the charitable side of the house. They are then left to the parent veterans organization to then do with it what they want, and without any restrictions or oversights back to the 26 or potentially 27 authorized lawful purposes. So again, please, Senator Howe, I don't mean to sound argumentative about the proposed language, just trying to present the potential issue of taking away the oversight for something that's already authorized. Again, the organizations, the veterans organizations can already spend the money on this. It's just back to the bar related or expansion. We don't want to lose the capability of providing that oversight, that check and balance for the public for the use of these gambling funds. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Howe, follow up?
I think I'll let Mr. Allness take a shot at that.
Mr. Allness, do you have any comments regarding the issue before us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Senator Howe. Just a couple points of clarification based on Mr. Getman's comments. First of all, the legislation specifically says that money can only be spent on the facility owned by a veteran service organization. There was some thought saying, what about bars or other places that they rent? They would be ineligible for any of these use of funds because the legislation says it has to be owned by the veteran service organization. Also, when I was working at Cargill in the corporate affairs area, I negotiated a new office for our government relations people in Washington, D.C. And it's a very common relationship where if you are the lessor of, so we were the lessee, we're renting space for a 10-year period from a building for us to get tenant improvement funds from the organization. So right now, in most cases, the bar is owned by a separate organization or run by a separate organization and leased by the post will lease it to that organization. So if we look at the commercial best practices, it's very normal that that organization on a time-to-time basis will invest in the infrastructure of, in this case, the bar or hall to help make improvements on that so that they keep the bar operating and also to help increase, keep it current and valid for use. And that's kind of why, one of the reasons why we put this in a sunset provision where after 10 years it'll go away. And then also I'd say in no way does this authorization of up to 50% mitigate what other financial responsibilities that the organization has. And in fact, I think it would also have some positive differences where it would help the post operate in a more lean manner, where their allowable expenses would go down because they want to be able to spend more money on their post, get it up to speed, make it a good facility so they can get back to their charitable mission. I think it's well understood that there would be a drop in charitable giving for the period that they're working on this. But when we're looking at putting funds into this place, posts need to have confidence that they have a steady funding stream for a multi-year period. And if they have to go back annually to get approval, you could see these die in their tracks. And I don't think that's a good way to do business or help these organizations be successful. And most importantly, remain open so they can help their communities.
Thank you, Mr. Allness. Senator Howe? Okay.
Senator Anderson, like, I don't know if you can see it, but Senator Uyghur and Senator Duckworth both have their hands up.
Right. Next one would be Senator Duckworth. Senator Duckworth?
Muted. You're muted, Senator Duckworth.
Man, I had gone a whole month and a half without doing that. It finally caught up to you. I was too excited. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. First, just a quick comment related to that conversation and then a question. So oftentimes, if one of these organizations is going to invest in improving their facility, oftentimes, if and when they do go to sell that facility, well, the improvement in theory increases its value. They sell the building, capture that value, and then that can obviously be used toward contributions, donations as they see fit. I guess my question would be, as it relates to oversight, I mean, I'm a member of my local VFW, and I know those guys to always look at how they can maximize the amount of money they're contributing to the community. Is there some sort of cause for concern, or do we think there is a lack of oversight or a demonstrated history or past of organizations doing things that would give us cause for pause as it would relate to the discussion we're having in terms of this bill?
Senator Duckworth, is that question for Mr. Getman or Mr. Allness?
Either or, even if the chief author of the bill has any insight into that either as well.
Mr. Getman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Duckworth. The issue of veterans organizations specifically, I had alluded to the fact that there is what we call the CRG, the actual internal citizen board group that does administrative adverse hearings for folks that have organizations that have done something against a statute and a rule. And there's not an exclusivity as to veterans organizations having issues. This is across the board. And specifically, yes, we have on a regular basis several organizations as well as individuals that are being brought into this citizen board subcommittee to then respond to our finding of them violating the statute or rule. And I had alluded to, and I apologize for not being more clear, over the first 20 years of the Gambling Control Board, there was no allowance. There was no 5%. There was no allowance for any organization to be able to literally flying under the radar screen, be able to spend money on the building maintenance, the building improvements, because of the potential issues that Senator Duckworth, you were just bringing up, do exist. And so the issue and the only concern, again, that the board has is the loss of oversight. So the 5% has been an acceptable amount that the legislature has chosen to allow organizations to spend. And again, we're talking about $2 billion industry here in Minnesota each year. There's just a lot of money flowing with a lot of folks having their hands out that could potentially ask for it. And so Senator Duckworth, you were asking about or mentioning about some of the sale of the properties and improvements towards potentially the sale. There have been situations where the board is actually approved. And again, we're not looking to hold back the approval, but approve the expenditure only to have it then artificially stayed out multiple years just to continue to draw funds for a non-true mission-related purpose. So this is just a way that we've seen, to answer your question, Senator Duckworth, that folks have hidden the money for ulterior purposes. And our concern as the board responsible for regulating and protecting the public, the interest of the gambling funds, we're struggling with the rationale for taking away that visibility for every dollar between 5% and 50%. And that's really the only concern that we have. The veterans organizations are doing great missions. We would love to see more money going to them. The way to do that is not this bill. This bill is saying with the money that they have, we're allowing them to then spend it on something without the same oversight as would be expected in normal situations. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Getman. Mr. Alness, would you like to respond to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my response is that there are periodic reviews from the organization, from outside auditors, as well as periodic reviews by the Gambling Control Board, which goes back and questions expenditures in the past year. And I would think that these many internal controls, audits, and existing reviews by the Gambling Control Board would provide the sense of oversight. Also, I think there could be administrative rules that would require reporting ongoing basis, or if there's a multi-year plan, submission of those plans for review and also for ongoing execution to make sure that the funds are used correctly. I certainly understand Mr. Getman's concerns that there's not abuse of these funds. And as Senator Howe mentioned, there's a lot of these posts that are losing their viability. And this is an attempt to keep them viable. And good oversight helps keep people honest. And I have no objection to that at all. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Alness. Senator Uyghur.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members. Mr. Alness, thank you for a very eloquent rebuttal. I was going to attempt to make those points about guardrails in place. Yes, we want accountability, but we have an emergency here. I've heard from my posts, the VFWs, the Legion, in fact, the Legion Post 39 in North St. Paul, that they have often requested this through the state organization, the language that has come here. As you've heard in the testimony, posts are dying, and this will provide a needed lifeline. There are protections that Mr. Allness had mentioned. I want to reiterate the need, the support, and I hope we can pass it. I'm sure that the chief author will continue to work with interested stakeholders, but let there be no mistake, this lifeline is needed so they can optimally perform their mission. And I couldn't say enough about what's being done in my district as well as others throughout this state. I support the bill.
Thank you, Senator Uyghur. Are there any other questions, or I'll send it back to the chair? No, Mr. Senator Lang, you're the author.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you know, first of all, I'd like to thank a pretty robust conversation that we just had, and both the testifiers, Mr. Allness and Mr. Getman. I appreciate the thoughts and the concerns. I'd like to thank Duckworth, Housley, Anderson, and Kiffmeyer for signing on to the bill for me. There was other askers that wanted on the bill, and I think for good reason. Over the last 18 months, I can tell you that this is Senate File 458 doesn't represent a single effort in trying to help our veterans organizations out. It's multiple different avenues of help that this committee in particular has tried to reach out to our vets, tried to, you know, provide some sort of a lifeline for these homes, or these facilities, let's call them. You know, I think part of the issue is the younger veterans like myself and Senator Duckworth, Mr. Allness, for example. We're busy. We don't spend quite as much time at these facilities like we should. I think that'll change over the course of time. I think we'll be able to spend more time in our home away from home. But for the meantime, we need to do everything we can do to get these places to survive. And I have to admit, I think the point of clarity for myself was at the end of last summer, there was an event at my local Legion where I attended it, and it was a free will donation for a taco bar night. And I can tell you that particular Legion doesn't have a separate hall and a bar. It doesn't work that way. It's all one room. Everybody can see each other from within the room. And I put a check in the free will donation that was above and beyond what the ask was. But I knew they had been struggling, and I can tell you that the real realization for me is where we needed to start working with these. Because prior to that, everybody that I talked to at that Legion had said, yeah, we're struggling a little bit. Well, you know, we're going to try to make it work. And I can tell you that when I got a member of the staff to come out afterwards and personally thank me for the check that was in that ice cream pail and tell me this is going to make a difference when it wasn't that much money. It shouldn't have been that much money to an organization like this that has in the past consolidated the VFW and the Legion, moved facilities into a retrofitted Quonset hut. This bill probably would help posts like St. Cloud. It would probably help posts in the Metro, sure. But what this really is doing is helping our small posts, helping, and maybe just a little bit, but I think it's important that we have a little bit of scope. As far as oversight, abuses, things like that, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you what organizations will come to the legislature in the future. I just don't know. What I do know now is that these institutions really need our help, and this is a small thing that we can do. So with that, members, I'll close up and I'll move it on to Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Senator Lang. Mr. Getman, you are in charge of you're a director with the control board, gambling control board. What percentage, you mentioned abuse, what percentage of your oversight of the gambling organizations are considered abuse from the standpoint of veterans abusing this, what you're saying that there's no oversight on?
Mr. Chair, thank you for the question. There's no statistic that I have today to target veterans. That's not the intent of any of my testimony. It's wearing a hat. And for those of you that don't recall, I'm a colonel in the National Guard. I'm the number 2, the Deputy State Judge Advocate. And wearing the hat of the Gambling Control Board, it's all about the oversight and integrity of the lawful gambling proceeds. And that's the hat that I'm wearing today. So while I've been struggling with some of the testimony that I've had to give wearing that hat, it really just comes down to the oversight. And so there is currently some language that I would be thrilled to take up Senator Howe's offer to work with the authors to see about changing some of the language, for instance, in Section 822, that could potentially just add the words for expansion or bar-related expenditures. But again, it wouldn't change the fact that anything up to that 5% could be then spent on those expansion or bar-related expenditures. But beyond that, it would still allow the oversight, and providing that protection for the general public is really the voice that I'm trying to convey today. And I appreciate, Mr. Chair, and all esteemed senators, the patience with me trying to say these words in conflict with my other hat that I wear. And so please, thank you, Mr. Chair, but would kindly ask that if I can help with drafting some of the language to ensure that, as Mr. Aldis had said, the end result is there, would be very glad to do that and work with the authors to make some of those suggested changes or provide those suggested changes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Aldis, any other final words here?
Just thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee for considering this bill.
Members, I think we always want to see legislation be better. And we've got a few more stops along the way here before we finally get it to the floor. And we want it to be the best that we can have. So I'm going to send this, unless there are other questions from the committee, I'm going to have the chair or the author of the bill move this bill. And I believe, Senator Lang, you know where it's supposed to go. So if you wouldn't mind having the last word. And
I would move that Senate File 458 be recommended to pass and be re-referred to the State Government Finance Policy and Elections Committee.
Senator Lang moves that Senate File 458 be recommended to pass and be moved to the State Government Finance and Policy Bill. Members, all those who are in favor of this, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. The motion is carried and the bill is now moved to State Government Finance. Thank you, Senator Lang, and I'll send the chairmanship back to you for the remainder of the committee.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. Members, next on the agenda, we have a presentation. I'm hesitant to ask, but I'm going to do it anyways. What Mr. Ben Johnson and Mr. Douglas Hughes, what does your schedule look like next week?
The Senator Lang, members of the committee, I'll be here next week. I guess I'll leave it to Deputy Hughes to see what he has going on.
I appreciate that. I think I'd like to give you a little more time than the 15 minutes we have left. I think you deserve at least that. So with that, members, I'm gonna say we'll listen to them next week, and seeing no other items on the agenda, I will wrap the gavel and we'll be adjourned for the day. So thank you very much for the robust conversation. Prior to wrapping the gavel, I almost forgot. Monday during the MAG meeting, I don't know if anybody else was on the call, we had Representative Bob Detmer left kind of.
You're muted, Senator Lang.
Now I don't feel so bad. Thank you.
I apologize. I was trying to do two things at the same time. I apologize. But Representative Detmer left the MAG meeting Monday morning in an effort to spend some time with his 97-year-old father, World War II veteran that passed away. Gordon Detmer, I just like to say that from the vets of today and the vets of yesterday, that maybe just say a little thank you to him and Representative Detmer, and think about them in the next couple of days. He'll be put to rest on Saturday. So with that, members, I'm going to call us adjourned and have a wonderful day. Thank you.